Hello and good morning. That was like a heart, like boom, we're ready to go. We're ready to rock and roll. The phones are already ringing about everybody that is so excited for this camera. And the laughing that you hear in the background is none other but the Lumix legend himself, number 23 in your program, number 1 in your hearts, Mr. Mark Toal. How are you doing,
And
sir?
keep those calls and donations coming in, okay? So we'll be on for the next 24 hours, right, TJ?
Exactly. We're just gonna go we're just gonna keep pushing through. Just get those donations, get those pre-orders in, if you will.
Exactly.
And I want to jump
It's nice
right into it. What are we talking about? It's an exciting day for Panasonic Lumix, is it not?
It is, yeah. So 2 hours ago, we announced the Lumix S5, which is this camera right here, if I can hold it up here correctly. So this is the newest in the S series of cameras. Obviously, I don't know how many of the viewers are on or people who are watching this are G series users. That's our smaller 4/3 compact camera. We make a line of full frame cameras called the S series that started with the S1 and the S1R and then went to the S1H. So this is the fourth in the series.
And so what are some of the biggest differences? I mean, the first one I'm looking at is just the size looks a little bit smaller.
The size, in when I received the box, I got this one about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And when I opened the box, it was the physical size of it. Everybody knows there was a lot of comments about the S1R, S1H being large, right? And they were designed that way for a reason. But this one, well, TJ, from your experience, but probably a lot of the viewers do too, this is about exactly the same size as the G9 body or the GH5. So basically, it's like, honey, we shrunk the camera.
Yeah, and that's what I remember when the S1 came out, and just looking, like, I love my G9 so much. I mean, I went to war with that thing, I feel like. And then the S1 came out, and it was a little bit larger. And I was like, I really wish we could have done full frame in the G9, because the ergonomics on the G9 are like second to none. I mean, if you put that camera in your hand, I mean, it just feels so super comfortable. But it seems like you guys did that now. So it's about, you say it's smaller than the G9?
Yeah, slightly smaller. I wouldn't describe it as being like small compared to a G9. It's a little bit less in weight and a little bit smaller in size, but not enough to be significant. When you pick it up, the grip feels the same, that feeling of the grip, that solid feeling.
Yes.
It just feels like a G9. And obviously the lenses are a little bit bigger, but this 20 to 60 millimeter lens that comes in the kit with it really isn't that much bigger than the 12 to 60 that goes on the G9. So I'm like you.
I've always liked that 20 to 60 and just we're blown away by the results. We have a video if you haven't seen it. If anybody's listening out there, we did a video of when that 20 to 60 came out, and just the sharpness and also the focal length, which was interesting to me. I really liked that focal length. It was a great trade-off for size for that 20 to 60 kind of view. I mean,
me too. I always wanted something a little bit wider than 24, like in the kit lenses, and the sharpness. And then the other thing, I don't know if I saw your video, but I can't remember all the details of it. It focuses extremely close.
Yes,
it's almost a macro. You can't call it a macro because it's not. It doesn't have 1-to-1 ratio and things like that. Sure. But this thing focuses so close that it doubles as a lot of lenses. So
I love it.
Yeah, so that's the kit. Is these two, and again, the kit isn't much heavier. It's slightly heavier than, let's say, a G9 or a GH5 with the 12 to 60, but not much. And so we didn't. So let's talk about a few other differences. The size is the main one. Let's compare it to well, and let me. A lot of people online are describing this as being a full frame GH5 or a full frame G9. And to be honest with you, that's how I see it after using it for 2 or 3 weeks. I like you. We don't have to repeat this again. We love the G9.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And what I like about the G9, obviously, is its size, even with the 1-to-400 or any of the lenses you put on it. But what I find is that the thing I miss in the G9 is the high ISO capability, the low light capability. That because it's a 4/3 sensor, it's smaller. I find that I kind of limit it to 1600. I'll go to 3200 sometimes. But now in the S5, the reason I'll take it out instead of the G9 is for the low light or being able to shoot at high ISOs. Sure. And I'll show you a couple of pictures, but I've been able to shoot. It's got, well, let's talk about technically. It has what's called a dual ISO sensor, which is similar to what we have in the GH5S. What that means is that most cameras have a single, they don't say single ISO, it's not a term, but you start at 400 ISO, and when you start moving up in the ISO, the picture gets noisier. and at a certain point it falls apart depending on the sensor and size. In a dual ISO camera, you have 2 circuits. So when it gets to 4000 in a camera like this, it literally starts over again. And 4000 is just about as clean as 400. So when I'm out shooting with this, what I'll do a lot of times is just crank it up to 4000. Even if I'm out shooting cars or flowers, let's say I want f/22, and I'm in Portland, Oregon. You can't tell by the background, but I'm in Portland, Oregon, where it's a sunny day today, but it's frequently cloudy. I can crank this up. I like a lot of depth of field. I can shoot at f/11 or 16, still get a good shutter speed, and the pictures are super clean. So, you know, you didn't ask what my favorite feature is, but I had to jump the gun and tell you that the dual ISO, being able to shoot at any ISO is just crazy. You know?
I love it. I'm excited. I can't wait to get this camera in my hands. So I can actually, go through and shoot some astro with it. And because we're supposed to have next month, we're going to have some great astro weather. So I'm hoping that we can start shooting with this thing soon. So I guess that brings me to my next point. When is this? It's officially announced today.
Right.
When can the viewers expect it to, be hitting the shelves?
Just in about 3 weeks, September 22nd. And so they can obviously pre-order it from Pixel Connection, and you guys either online, by phone, come into the store. Yeah. So.
Yep, and we have it up on our website. So if you would like to pre-order this camera, we do have it up on our site, and we're ready to roll.
Yeah.
So Mark, you have a presentation, right? Don't you have some information?
Yes. Can I show you a few slides?
Let's go ahead and jump into it.
I'm one of those people who always dreads a presentation, so I promise I'll keep it short.
Yes. And while we're doing that, I want to say hello to a few of our viewers. Hello, Mr. Mike Vrobel from Copley, Ohio. Hello, Jim Summers, cloudy with a chance of learning something new here in Wadsworth. And Mr. Tim Huffman, I hope you're doing well, man. Cloudy with rain there in Boston. So.
Hey, Tim. I know Tim.
Yes, you do. So I will let you go ahead and kick off with that.
Okay, can you see that okay?
Switch screen. So if you just go back to the screen that you were on.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second here. Let me see if I can do hold on.
Oh, like Brad Cohn was jealous, so now excited for the S5. He had to jump in there. Hello, Brad. Our friendly neighborhood rep, our account manager. Hello, Mr. Cohn. Okay, cool. So yeah, let's just go ahead and present from that because it got mixed up with the like the notes slide and things like that. Oh, no
problem.
So
okay,
we'll just at full frame and we'll be good to go.
Sounds good. So this again is that comparison we're talking about. This is the beauty of it. On the left is the S5 and on the right is the GH5. The GH5 is about the same size as the G9, and you can see the S5 body is a little bit less in weight, height. Everything about it is just slightly smaller. Again, I wouldn't. It's not a big difference, but compared to the S1, S1R, and SH, it is. This is where Panasonic sees it falling into the lineup. Now, people ask, is the S1 going to stay in the lineup? Yes, it is, because there's still a lot of people, and we found this when it came out. There are people like TJ and I who like a small camera, but there's a lot of people who like a big camera with a hefty grip on it. It does have the LCD on top. It has a larger battery, so it lasts a little bit longer, takes more pictures. It's got a better viewfinder and a better EVF on the back. So the S1 stays in the lineup. The S1R stays in the lineup. That's basically 47 megapixels. And the S1H, which is really a super video camera. We see the S5, though, as being this hybrid camera for somebody who wants to do video and stills. It's phenomenal at both of these. Let's go into some of the details. So here's a good example. So here is the 20 to 60 millimeter lens. I shot this picture of this train at ISO 4000. And again, we're watching this on a computer, so it's not really fair. But there is very, very little grain in here, for a 4000 ISO picture. And again, this is why I like full frame as opposed to 4/3. Although if the light's good, I'll probably take 4/3 most of the time out. This is that close focusing capability we talked about. This is at 20 millimeters, and this is not some leaf from the land that time forgot. This is just in my front yard. So this lens, besides being extremely sharp, as you can see in the picture, it focuses so close. So it's just so versatile. It's still got, we have the 96 megapixel high resolution mode. This is where it moves the sensor around in order to record a 96 megapixel picture on a 24 megapixel sensor. Now it does JPEG and RAW processing where the S1 only did JPEG. So you get a RAW image out of this that you can adjust in Lightroom. Live view composite. So this is new. It was not in the S1. This, for people who don't know what live view composite is, this basically records multiple pictures and builds them into one. What it does is in the first picture, it records the scene normally. Then it records a black frame for the noise. Then every time you shoot a picture, it only adds the light that's in it. So in this one, so on the left would be the normal shot of the sky. And on the right is, this is multiple exposures. And every time it only records the stars. It doesn't increase the exposure down at the bottom of the scene there. This is great for astrophotography, for those light trails, let's say when you get above the freeway and you see the cars coming along. The neat thing about it is when you're in this mode, you see the picture build on the screen. So as you're watching it, you don't just, like normally if you're in the bulb setting, you take your picture, you don't know what it looks like until you're done 20 or 30 seconds later. Now you see it building on the screen, and where it gets to where the image you want, you just hit the shutter button to stop it. Very neat feature. Heat dispersing design. So this is, there's been a lot of talk about this lately with other camera models that are coming out. And Panasonic has always been known for having no overheating problems. This mainly has to do with video. But again, we continue that in this camera. This camera just, it does have some limitations on time for heat, but there are some unlimited recording modes, and they are truly limited recording modes. This is something Panasonic really prides itself on. HDMI output, so you can now go 10-bit output to a Atomos recorder. You can do this on the other cameras too. 14 stops. So again, this camera, again, has all of the features of the S1 and a lot of the features of the S1H, like 14 stops of dynamic range, which especially in video. So you can use this as like a B camera or a second camera to an S1H and easily match the footage. Slow and quick motion. This is one of my favorites. So what slow and quick motion is obviously we know what slow motion is. That's anytime you go above, let's say, 30 frames a second, 60, 120, 180. But this is something we introduced in the G100. This is on the dial. You can see it on the bottom right here. There's an S and Q setting. And the reason I like this is in slow motion, I like to shoot at 120 frames per second. But on the other cameras, I hate going into the menu and having to find it and turn it on. Now I can just turn the dial to S and Q. I have my 120 frames per second in there, and it just automatically starts shooting, and then I can go back to the regular video or stills mode. But the neat thing about this is it will now do quick motion. So you can go down to 1 frame per second. And people might ask, you know, what's the point of that? This is where you do things that are things like hyperlapse. If you don't know what hyperlapse is, that is the videos you've probably seen on YouTube where somebody moves through a scene very, very quickly. So you basically go to S and Q, set it to 1 frame a second, hold the camera as steady as possible, and walk down a path. And it's good to have something to focus on at the end. And then when you play it back, it basically is 30 times faster than you're actually walking down the path. So again, this is neat. It goes from 1 frame a second up to 180 frames per second. These are a few things new that we brought over from the G100. Frame indicator is one of my favorites. So when you're shooting video and you hit the record button, it puts this red box around the video. Sometimes in bright light, it can be hard to see this little red dot, which most other cameras have. We've made this camera very friendly to vloggers and people who do Instagram and IGTV, things like that, TikTok. You can put a frame marker. What this is when you're shooting video, it's shooting the whole 16:9 frame, but you can put up this choice of frame markers to show how Instagram is going to crop it. So if you put this video on YouTube, you get the whole 16:9 video. And if you put it on Instagram, you see what the frame markers are so your subject does not move out of it. Vertical video. So this is, cameras have to have this nowadays. This is for people who vlog and want to shoot a vertical video, which is what Instagram Stories works in, Facebook Stories, Instagram TV, TikTok. Everything wants vertical these days. So it shoots vertical, and then you can immediately transfer that to your phone and you can upload it, or to your computer if you want to adjust it, and it's tagged correctly so that when you upload it to those sites, it's vertical. We won't go into all these. These are things we've had. And you can switch from NTSC to PAL. So if you take this camera to Europe, you can do a switch in the camera. It has zebra patterns, waveforms, time codes. If you're a video person, you know what all these mean. But what these are advanced video features that aren't in a lot of the cameras that are in this space and category.
Right. And I wish the waveform monitor would be available for stills one day. I just think it's so much better than a histogram.
I know. Yeah, exactly. These are video features here. Again, one of my favorite features that I use a lot is Timelapse. We have built-in Timelapse in the camera that makes the video after you take the Timelapse. And I think a lot of other cameras have Timelapse, but I think we do it the best because we can create the video. You can even create it at different speeds. We've improved the autofocus tremendously in this camera. And this is a big point with Panasonic. If you look online, you'll see a lot of people who make a lot of comments about our autofocus. And I'm not going to, I've found improvements, but I work for the company. So what I'm going to do is just, if you want to see more about this, there'll be lots of people on YouTube in the next couple of weeks doing autofocus tests, doing autofocus things to show this. I'm going to leave it to them. I find it works a lot better. The face detection's a lot better. The body detection's a lot better. The moving subject is a lot better. But again, it's such a controversial subject that I'm going to leave it to the experts and not, because to be honest with you, I'm more of a still photographer. Dual axis stabilization, 6.5 stops. So we have the body combined with the lens. So like with this 20 to 60 millimeter lens, you've got the two together. We had
and real quick, go back to that slide real quick. So it says up to the tele end. So this was one thing too that I've seen where other manufacturers will be, have these large, like, oh, this does amazing image stabilization. One thing that I noticed when I was at Panasonic and I actually shot these cameras was just how conservative Panasonic is about their, about the amount of correction. And the fact is, like, this is up to at the tele end. So again, being a wide angle lens, that's a little bit easier to stabilize. They're doing it at that telephoto lens to the telephoto end of it. So if it's anything like previous generations of the image stabilization, I'm sure it's going to be second to none.
Exactly. And this is where we do second to none. We do get a lot of great reviews on this. We are known for having the best image stabilization, especially since we've been doing the dual stabilization. The S1R did not have the flippy screen or tilting screen like that. Free angle monitor is the term for it. Now, this is another difference between this and the S1 and the S1R and the S1H. Well, I wouldn't say only. It's 2360K dots. I'm sorry, it's 1840 on the free angle monitor. It's 2360 here, where in the other cameras it's 5.9K. So this is about half the resolution. So this is a couple points where we were able to make the camera a little bit smaller and cheaper. Okay. Durability, again, splash resistant, dust resistant, things like that. Well, Panasonic, again, is known for this durability. Dual SD card slots. Now, one is a USH1, one's a USH2 card slot, but it does have two card slots so you can back up your images as you shoot or have an overflow or things like that. USB charging, power saving EVF, so it turns on when you bring your eye to it, but you can charge this with the USB cable that comes with the camera. Accessories, it takes everything from the XLR to our flashes. It takes all of our standard accessories. There is a new battery grip for it because the body is a different size. The little tripod, automatic tripod that works, that we introduced with the G100 will fit this. It does have a different battery. So we have the BLK22. This is the same size battery as the battery in the G9, GH5, GH5S, the BLF19 it's called. So this battery will fit in those cameras. Now, that battery will not fit in this camera because they're not powerful enough. But this battery can be used in the other cameras.
And another question too there, that tripod, the grip that's there, is there an adapter? Like, is it more of like the traditional headphone like port on the S5?
Yes, it does. And it comes with
a coupler.
Yeah, it comes with a coupler. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and that's $49. So this is exciting. So later this year, we are going to announce firmware updates to the S1 S1R, S1H, that are going to bring a lot of the new focusing capability and things and these improvements to those cameras. So we're not leaving people behind. This is something that Panasonic is also known for. Now, for the S5 later this year, we're also going to introduce RAW support at 5.9K for video over HDMI to the Atomos 5, just like the S1H. We're going to do cinema 4K recording. New photo styles. I'm excited about this as a still photographer. A new monochrome style and a new classic Neo, they call it. I haven't seen this yet. They haven't given us the upgrade. But and I think you remember this from your working with Panasonic cameras, TJ, is we support our cameras. We go back and make improvements to them like this. We've figured out a way to improve the focusing on this camera, and we'll put it in these other cameras so they equal that. We don't leave customers behind.
So if I'm reading this right, there's going to be a firmware update that gets raw video to the Ninja 5 at 5.9K.
Yes.
Wow.
By the end of the year, but I am always hesitant to. They say by the end of the year. I always hesitate on that because
coming soon. We'll just say coming soon.
With the raw for the S1H, we had a little bit of delay on that to make some improvements in it. Okay, so let me stop sharing the screen. I'll stop. There we go. Are we back live?
We are. So and I'll ask real quick if there's any questions about this camera, please, put those in the chat. So who is this for? Because I'm seeing like kick-ass video specs, amazing photo specs. I mean, is this kind of a resurgence back to that hybrid shooter model?
Yes. Well, yes, but I don't know if there's a lot of those hybrid shooters out there. So I think what we're appealing to is the video customer who maybe doesn't have $4,000 for an S1H, but wants a lot of those features. He's going to lose some. There's things in the S1H that this one doesn't have that make it more of a Netflix approved camera. Right. Or the still photographer. And maybe I could be wrong. I don't know. You work in the store all the time. The only people I see who are doing a lot of hybrid stuff are like wedding photographers, event photographers, things like that. The average customer seems to be either a video or a still photographer.
So with this too, I mean, this is L mount, correct?
Right. Yes.
So that means all of the lenses that are currently out for the L mount alliance. So we have Sigma, we have Leica, we have Lumix. So do you happen to know off the top of your head about how many lenses is that for the system now?
Oh God, there's got to be 20. Because of the Leicas, but even then, there's probably 10 Sigmas. Right. We have about 5, and then I'm glad you brought that up because we've pre-announced. We haven't announced when they're going to ship. We have new lenses coming too.
Oh, cool! What are those?
So, because this body's smaller, we're coming out soon. I think by the end of this year, I hear, with an 85mm 1.8.
Oh, nice.
It's going to be again much more compact size to fit this camera. And then on the drawing board for next year, we have a 50mm 1.8, a 35mm 1.8, and a 70-300.
Oh, great! So that's definitely going to open up the line to more users, especially at that smaller, lighter weight, lower price points.
Exactly.
And then one thing that we're doing too, and you and I had talked a little bit about ahead of time, was just some of those new Sigma lenses that have come out for the L mount. And I actually have one on my desk here. Let me grab it real quick. The new 85 from Sigma.
Oh, I didn't see that. Yeah.
Just how much smaller it is. It's such a departure from the full size, SLR lenses and how much smaller they've made it. The 45mm as well. And for anybody that's tuning in live, if you pre-order this camera, we're actually going to, we're working with Panasonic on, doing a free 45mm lens as well. So if you need more information on that, feel free to reach out and let us know, and we can get that added to your pre-order. So again, that 45mm is just so small. I want to say it's like about that big.
I was looking around to see if I had one here. I have one, but I can't. I think it's in the car. So
small, lightweight, go anywhere with you. And that 45mm point of view is it's really close to the eye, and it's not like over wide like a 24. It's kind of zoomed in, and it's well-built lens. I love the, the metallic qualities of it. So again, just exciting times for the, the Elmon Alliance, but Panasonic in general for coming out with just another phenomenal camera.
Yeah, I think this really brings the S series along. Where, at first a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's so big, and there's only 4 or 5 lenses," and now we're showing what we're doing. It's kind of like when the G series came out. We had the first G1 with 2 lenses. I remember people coming up to the counter and they're like, "Nice to see you," but and it took a while until we got more lenses, wide angles. My favorite, I shoot a lot with the 16 to 35. The Lumix lens. In this 20 to 60, I'm just in love with. I love that angle of view.
Right. And it's small, compact too, which makes it nice.
Yeah.
And I think
talk about
a little more balanced.
Can we mention the price?
Yeah. So how much is the S5 going to be?
The S5 is the body only is $19.99.
Wow.
And the with the lens, it's going to be $2,300.
That's not bad at all.
No.
And then with the Brad commented, there's some chat going on, sorry. So is the new lens roadmap including the f1.8 prime lenses official? Yes, it is. And yes. Brad says yes, 24, 35, 50, 85, and the 70 to 300 are all.
Now the 70 to 300 will be like I don't know the exact aperture. It'll be like a 3.5 to 5.6, so it'll be a small lens. So the idea is that you'll have the 20 to 60 and the 70 to 300 that will cover a lot of things like a photographer like I shoot all the time. Yeah.
Right. And that's what I'm thinking, just like even for travel, if I'm going abroad and I want a little bit of distance, I want a nice wide, just to wander around the streets, carry with me everywhere. It seems like the 20 to 60 really fits in to that. And again, that smaller form factor too. I love that.
Me too. And another thing that's included with this camera for video people is the vlog is included in it. So
yeah, and that's what I was going to ask too, and that's the SFU2 upgrade, correct?
That's built in though. You don't have to do the firmware upgrade. You don't have to do any of that. So like I said, this camera there's still a reason people are going to want to buy the S1. It's not. They have the same image quality. Let me bring that up if people ask. They use the same sensor. So each of the cameras, except for the S1R, which has the 47 megapixel, the S1H. The S5 and the S1 all use the same sensor, the 24 megapixels. So you're not going to see a better picture from this than the S1. Yeah.
And then I love seeing how the upgrades that have come from the G100. I love playing with that camera.
Yes.
But the red outline on that, so you can see the recording. I mean, that is such a smart feature. I mean, a tally light in the bright, you might not be able to see it, but with that screen being right there, just being able to see it. Headphone and microphone on this?
Yes, headphone, microphone, obviously HDMI, USB charging on the side, and again the smaller battery.
And that's USB-C, correct?
Yes, it is. Yep. And the 2 card slots. I'm trying to think of what else we're forgetting here. There's going to be a lot of pictures and a lot of people reviewing it. All the talking heads on YouTube will be out there soon. So we've given you the outline. We're going to let them go and fill in how they like it. The couple I've seen already this morning are very positive about it. So.
Yeah. And as soon as we get the camera here in store, we'll be doing, touch and try and, allowing people to come in and check it out. And also giving kind of a full review over on our YouTube channel. This was just kind of a, thank you so much for Lumix for jumping on here, especially so quick to the launch, and, being on here and informing us about this camera and getting us all excited. I wish it was here so we could go out and shoot.
Well, this is the summer I was supposed to come to Cleveland, remember?
Exactly.
I was supposed to come to Ohio, and now we've got
all the Burning River, all the good stuff.
I could have been in the studio with you there. We could have just been.
You could have been answering the phone. The Lumix Legend.
How are the donations going? Yep. So no, we could have TJ and I have wandered around Seattle together shooting pictures and Las Vegas, a couple other cities. So yeah. Now you're going to love this camera when you see
Cleveland's not the same. Trust me. I will definitely come to you instead. No, Cleveland's great. We love our Cleveland fam. So difference between the S1 and the S5s. A question came in. Why would you pick one over the other?
You would pick, good question. So I think most people are going to choose the 5 because it's smaller. You would choose the S1 because you want a larger body, you want a larger battery.
Right.
So a couple of things we had to do on the S5 to make it smaller. It uses a different shutter, so it's not rated for as many actuations if that's important to you. It still is a good shutter. We had to go to a little bit smaller stabilization system. So to be honest with you, the S1 is probably a little bit beefier a camera, but this is not going to have any problems. You lose the LCD display. Again, if you like the bigger camera, you like the bigger battery, the LCD on top, the viewfinder is incredible on the S1. The viewfinder is like looking through glass.
Right.
So that's probably it. But image quality wise, there'd be no reason to choose one over the other.
Right. The screen on the top, dual SD cards versus
Well,
the newer
the
XQD.
Yeah, the S1 has the CFast or XQD card. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you already have those cards, that one makes a little bit more sense.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely still, I think the S1 definitely still has a place in the lineup.
Oh, I do too.
I don't see this, cannibalizing that. I think it's just a different camera for a different segment. And
Exactly.
the features that you guys have put in, like the crop marks and the vertical video, the recording where you can see yourself. I think that's huge. And also too, like with the S1 has the flip up screen.
Right.
So, for me, I've now that I've shot at cameras that have the fully articulating, some people might not like the fully articulating. So if you like that, just that flip up screen, that might be a better fit for you as well. So we always urge people to come into the store and get hands-on with the cameras. And we have the try before you buy program. So, if you rent it for the weekend and you're like, yep, this is the one I want, you could just take that rental money and it goes right to the cost of that camera. So, we definitely urge people to come in, get your hands on it, try it out, put some test frames through it to make sure that it's, the right camera for you. And we will have this camera as soon as they are ready to roll. We'll have them here on display and ready for you to try out.
And it's available for pre-order now as of 10 o'clock Eastern time this morning.
Absolutely. And it's already up on our website, ready to roll.
Yeah, and check out the offer that goes with that TJ talked about, the second lens offer. So
yeah, we'll have that ready for you. Well, Mark, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for jumping on here. Yeah. I can't wait to see all the other creators. I know one thing that I loved when I worked at Panasonic was the amount of creators that they work with on launches like this. So I'm going to go check out some of those videos and get hyped even more.
Me too.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me, Mark. I appreciate it. We'll see you.